What if we told you that an army used cats to win a battle? Or that another relied on flaming camels to scare elephants into retreating? Some of history's strangest tactics sound too absurd to believe, yet these insane strategies actually worked. From flaming animals to psychological tricks, here are the most insane military tactics that shouldn't have worked but did. Let's start with the fiery camel stampede back in 1398 with Timur the Lame, also known as Tamerlane, up against the mighty war elephants of the Delhi Sultanate. Timur's problem? Elephants armored with spiked, poisoned tusks that his camels couldn't match. Think about it. He was looking at elephants in chainmail. Timur wasn't thrilled about it either, but rather than call it a day, he decided to turn his camels into flaming missiles. Yeah, he had his soldiers load their camels with hay, set them on fire, and then sent these blazing animals charging at the elephants. The elephants, spooked by the fire and chaos, turned back, stampeding through their own troops and trampling anyone in their path. Timur's flaming camels sent the enemy forces into disarray, giving his army a clear path to victory. It may have been terrifying, but who would have thought flaming camels could make a war-winning strategy? Now, from camels to cats? That's right. Back in 525 BCE, Cambyses II of Persia had his eye on capturing the Egyptian city of Pelusium. Egyptians held cats sacred, believing them to be the embodiment of the goddess Bastet. Cambyses knew this and came up with an outlandish idea. He armed his soldiers with cats and painted images of Bastet on their shields. The Egyptians, fearing they might hurt these sacred animals, hesitated to fight. Their own reverence was turned against them, and they retreated, allowing Cambyses' forces to capture the city without much resistance. Who would have thought that cats, of all things, would lead to military victory? Then there's ancient Rome, where the Romans faced Carthage in the First Punic War. The Romans were known for their strength on land, not at sea. Carthage had a stronger navy, so Rome created an unexpected solution: the corvus. Yeah, they were ready to do anything but learn how to swim. This was essentially a massive wooden plank with a spike, allowing Roman soldiers to board Carthaginian ships as if they were land battles. The corvus was risky. It made Roman ships heavier and less stable. But it worked, transforming naval warfare into close combat, where the Romans had the advantage. At the Battle of Mylae in 260 BCE, the corvus helped Rome capture dozens of Carthaginian ships, securing a crucial victory. It may have been clunky, but the corvus put Rome in control of the Mediterranean. Now we leap to the Soviet-Afghan War in the 1980s, where Soviet soldiers faced an unexpected supply problem. The soldiers, posted in remote areas, often had little access to quality food. The only thing of value they had to trade? Bullets. But they weren't about to hand over live ammunition to the locals, especially since it could end up right back in their own faces. So, the soldiers came up with a crazy plan. They'd boil the bullets, hoping it would somehow make them unusable. In theory, this would render the ammo useless, leaving them with a moral victory and maybe some food. The reality? Not so much. The bullets weren't affected, and they probably just looked like they were trying to cook some very strange soup. Still, the soldiers kept boiling, convinced their recipe was foolproof. Now to one of history's boldest moves in military strategy: Caesar's double siege at Alesia during the Gallic Wars. In 52 BCE, Julius Caesar was besieging the town of Alesia, but his problems doubled when a massive Gallic relief army arrived to break the siege. Caesar, outnumbered and surrounded, didn't retreat. Instead, he ordered his soldiers to build two walls. One wall kept the town's defenders inside, and the other kept the relief army out. For weeks, Caesar's army defended against attacks from both sides. Despite overwhelming odds, the double wall held, and eventually, Caesar claimed victory. It was a stroke of genius, and one of the most daring defenses in military history, proving that sometimes the best way out of a tough spot is to double down. But there's also strategies that were a little more believable. For example, during World War II, we had the Soviet Union's all-female night bomber regiment, nicknamed the Night Witches, who took on the Nazis with outdated biplanes. These rickety wooden planes were old and slow, making them easy targets. Except the Night Witches found a way to turn their weakness into a strength. They'd approach their targets under the cover of darkness, cut their engines, and glide silently over German camps before dropping their bombs. The Germans were terrified, calling them night witches because of the eerie whoosh of their planes. Despite facing superior technology, these daring women left a lasting impact with one of the most unorthodox air raids of the war. While we're on the subject of world wars, let's go to World War I, when German U-boats were wreaking havoc on Allied ships. With no effective technology to counter these stealthy submarines, the British got creative. They formed a Hammer Corps to patrol the waters in small boats, tasked with a simple yet bizarre mission: spot U-boat periscopes, cover them with bags, and then smash them with a hammer. It sounds like something out of a cartoon, but disabling the periscope was enough to cripple the U-boat's navigational ability. Without working periscopes, the German submarines were essentially blind, allowing the Allies to evade their deadly attacks. This low-tech solution turned out to be an unlikely defense until more advanced methods were developed. Next, we have the time when Japanese forces advanced on Singapore during World War II. The British defenders felt pretty secure in their position. After all, how could an army possibly march heavy artillery through thick jungle terrain? They weren't counting on the Japanese army's real secret weapon: bicycles. Yep, instead of tanks, they rolled in on two wheels. With bicycles, the Japanese soldiers zipped over rough jungle paths and even carried their supplies on the back. The British, expecting something a little more high-tech, were caught completely off guard. Imagine facing an army that moves faster than your supply line and doesn't even need gas. The bicycle blitz led to the rapid fall of Singapore and became a legend in military strategy. Sometimes it really is the simple things in life like pedal power that make all the difference. Speaking of clever ways to surprise a city, let's hop on over to the Viking era, where one chieftain had an even stranger trick up his sleeve. Hásteinn was a chieftain who had his sights set on Rome. Or at least he thought it was Rome. After a series of botched raids, Hásteinn needed a new approach. So, what did he do? He faked his own death and sent word to the city's defenders, requesting a Christian burial as his final request. The city, taking pity, let him in for a funeral. But this wasn't your typical funeral procession. The moment Hásteinn was carried inside the gates, he jumped up off his stretcher like he'd just heard the dinner bell. His men sprang into action, raiding and pillaging with a vengeance. Only, there was one small hiccup in the plan. This Rome turned out to be a little place called Luna. Hásteinn may have missed his target by a couple hundred miles, but his back from the dead routine worked so well it became legendary. It turns out that sometimes the best way to win a battle is to make an entrance that's just a bit unexpected. Finally, we have a tactic that sounds more like a party trick than a military strategy. In 623, the Tang dynasty was battling the Tuyuhun kingdom. Outnumbered and facing archers on higher ground, the Tang general Chai Shao knew he needed a distraction to get his cavalry into position. His solution? Send 2 women and a musician to the enemy's line to put on a dance performance. The soldiers were so captivated that they let their guard down, giving Chai Shao enough time to position his troops for a successful ambush. It's a story that proves that sometimes, even on the battlefield, entertainment can be a powerful weapon. From fiery camels to fake sick notes, these tactics prove that in war, creativity can be just as powerful as brute force. Which of these shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you're fascinated by stories from history's most unexpected battle strategies, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more strange and remarkable tales. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the wildest plans lead to the greatest victories.